All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning and welcome, and thank you for joining us today for this opportunity to have your questions about the upcoming Investors Community Bank and Nicolet Bank merger answered. All attendees have been placed on mute, but feel free to submit any questions you might have throughout the webinar by using the Q&A feature on the right side of your screen. You may need to click the arrow to open the full Q&A box if you'd like to submit a question, if all the controls are not visible. We will address those questions throughout the presentation. At this time, I would like to turn the mic over to ICB's Chief Banking Officer, Dave Coggins, who will introduce our speakers and serve as moderator for today's webinar.
Thanks, Melissa, and welcome today. Thanks for joining us. We hope your time spent with us today will be informative and useful. And one of my goals as your moderator today is to try real hard to never miss unmuting, as is commonly a problem these days when we use a lot of video conferencing. But this session will be recorded, so if someone else in your operation is unable to join today and wants to hear what was shared, you'll be able to share the recording with them. So that's something to keep in mind. Our objective today is to help you better understand why we are merging with Nicolet Bank and what it likely means to you, our customers. We also hope this time helps you get to know more about Nicolet and its leadership. And we'll do our best to answer questions that have been submitted before today, as well as provide an opportunity, as Melissa said, for you to ask questions during the webinar that we'll do, and we'll do our best to answer those as we go along. Today's conversation will be done in a Q&A type format. So I'll serve as the moderator and we'll be asking questions of our panelists and fielding your questions as they come up and passing them along to one or both of the panelists. So let's get started. Let me introduce our panelists for today's conversation. First of all, someone known to most of you is Tim Schneider, who's our CEO, and he's a co-founder of Investors Community Bank back in 1997 with his co-founders Bill Sensky, Wayne Miller, and Mark Benversi. And I'd also like to introduce Mike Daniels, the president and CEO of Nicolet National Bank. He's a co-founder of Nicolet back in 2000 with his co-founder Bob Atwell. And so I'd like to start by asking Mike to provide a little more background on himself and tell us a little bit more about who Nicolet National Bank is, especially for those in parts of the state who don't know much about Nicolet. So Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dave, appreciate it. Good morning and thanks for being here. I'm Mike Daniels. I'm the president and CEO of both Nicolet Bank Shares and Nicolet National Bank. 21 years ago in 2000, Bob Atwell and I founded Nicolet Bank in my basement on a white sheet of paper, much the same as Bill, Wayne, Mark, and Tim did a few years earlier than that. We were primarily a C&I or a business-to-business lender. That's the background we came out of, much the same as Tim and his co-founders had ag backgrounds. Nicolet, since its founding, has been a community-based organization. We are now a public company, the second largest bank headquartered in the state, which at the end of this year, after an M-Bank transaction and investors transaction, will be $7.5 billion public company listed on NASDAQ. Primary markets Nicolet operates in are northeastern Wisconsin, which includes Green Bay, the Fox Valley, Kewaunee north into Door County, central Wisconsin, which is the Wausau-Medford area, the Northwoods, which includes Rhinelander, Eagle River, Minocqua, etc. One of the things we try to be is the lead local community bank in the markets we serve, where while in the financial services industry, you compete with everyone, credit unions, other community banks. Our bank is particularly postured, much as Investors was, primarily in the ag space, to be a community-based alternative to the larger organizations that continue to disinvest in areas where they feel they can't get population or traction. We're not in any of the major markets, if you will. We're not in Milwaukee area. We're not in Madison. And the primary reason when people ask us, what about Milwaukee and Madison? We sit there and say, how do you matter? How can you matter to the community? How can you matter to your customers? And how can you matter to one another? And if you do those things, those three things exceptionally well, your shareholders in the end will win. We don't we don't play for quarter by quarter performance. We play for the long game, but we understand that being a publicly traded company, you have to show up and earn that right every day, and that's good people in the communities we operate with the decision to get things done, showing up and caring about their customers, where they live, and one another. And that's been the recipe for success, and we expect that to continue.
Thanks, Mike. And I think that helps some of our customers that are located in parts of the state that don't know a lot about Nicolet, but very similar culture and background to what was the basis for founding Investors Community Bank as well, just in a little different marketplace. So Tim, I'd like to turn the next question to you. What was ICB board's rationale for agreeing to a sale of the company?
Yes, thank you, Dave. Just I have to apologize first if I end up coughing through this. I've got a summer cold that's creating some challenges with my voice, so hopefully that'll be all right through the conversation here. But as Mike mentioned, first of all, I'd like to say we're very excited about the opportunity with Nicolet, a very entrepreneurial organization. I've known Mike Daniels and Bob Atwell for 20 years. We've seen each other at conferences. We talk to each other quite often. Know what their culture's like, know what their objectives are. And I'm excited about this. As Mike mentioned, mattering in the line of business that you're in, we matter in the ag space. We have a big percentage of the market share in the state of Wisconsin and into some of the bordering states now where we're starting to do business. And we think that's important. As you're hearing in the banking space, there's a lot of consolidation that's going on. The same thing's happening in the ag space, in the dairy space in particular. Scale is tending to matter, and we think this combination is going to give us a lot of additional runway, both from a lending limit standpoint to help handle the continued capital demands of our ag customers, as well. We have been looking for opportunities to acquire additional banks since we bought the business bank back in 2016. And unfortunately, I've been challenged with our currency in the market to be competitive. And we also needed to continue to fund the growth with deposits. And it's obviously a little more challenging to grow the organization at $1.5 billion with only 4 locations generating deposits like we have. Nicolet's got a solid footprint of core deposits throughout their entire footprint, which will help from a funding perspective. So those are really the reasons behind it. We think it makes very good sense for our organization to be rolled into Nicolet. I'm excited about it. I'm going to maintain a leadership role in the combined organization, and I think that's going to be getting me back to my roots, which I'm really very excited about as well, growing up on a dairy farm. So.
Thanks, Tim. And maybe just a little different twist on a similar question for you, Mike. Why does the acquisition of Investors Community Bank make sense for Nicolet?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when the phone rang and we found out that it was the investment banker that ICB had hired or contracted with, I was surprised, pleasantly surprised. We of course, as you know, are in the middle of the MBank deal, but we always thought that at least at the present time, I thought the ICB deal was unactionable. And the first thing I did after I hung up with the investment banker was reach out to Tim and say, hey, dude, tell me what's going on. I'm surprised to get this call. But to the point about lead local and mattering, right? The reflection of northeastern Wisconsin, primarily where we operate outside of Milwaukee and Madison, But if you take the northern 2/3 of the state, the UP, and in areas where people don't think, or the big guys don't think it's sexy enough to bank, the opportunity to be lead local, and the fact that the reflection of the Wisconsin economy, you take the investors' ag portfolio, marry it with Nicolet and its footprint, its expanding footprint, provides a tremendous opportunity to be the lead local community bank. And community doesn't mean part of the community, it means all of the community. And on the northern 2/3 of the state, the UP, and as that geography, northern Michigan, and as that geography continues to expand, where there's opportunity to matter. And when the phone rings, we answered it, and the opportunity to sit down and talk to Tim, particularly because in our view, much as Tim alluded to, investors, the thing they did best was the thing that they were trapped in, given the currency. The market never realized, the smart guys in New York, the publicly traded guys, never realized the performance of ICB because they couldn't get their head around the ag primary dairy concentration. And that's unfortunate because I think we have the best C&I lenders in the state. I know Investors has the best ag lenders in the state, if not the country. So if you can take two groups and put them together and have the synergy of unleashing those guys by having no capital constraint, no funding constraint, no lending constraint, and really become the lead local bank across most of the territories in which we both operate, that's a recipe for success if done well. The fact that Tim's going to lead that group is of great comfort, as Tim alluded to. We've known each other a long time, and I have a tremendous amount of faith and trust in Tim, and I think that'll play through as this deal gets done. They'll see, meaning the customer base, you will all see the commitment to doing things where we live because it's important to us, and not playing to some New York mantra of what are you going to do about your concentration? What are you going to do about your concentration? But what makes sense for where we live and what we do, and how do we best serve that market? You know, it doesn't mean it's going to be Burger King, right? You don't get to have it your way. Both companies believe in a model of shared success, which means how do you create as many win-wins as you can, and you create, keeping in mind that we have to serve the customers, the community, each other, and the shareholders will win. But that requires a tremendous amount of trust and operating in a degree of shared success with our customers, with one another as we move forward. So the long-term opportunity here is tremendous. I believe the short-term opportunity is tremendous, and the fact that we were able to get something done, albeit maybe a little quicker than we all thought, is a testament to what I think the combined organization can become and mean to, at least initially, primarily. I'm not trying to diminish the UP or Michigan or Minnesota by any means, but what that means, what we mean in the state of Wisconsin is real.
Thanks, Mike. And maybe another question for you is, Nicolet has completed a number of bank acquisitions in the past several years. You're known as an acquirer and have a reputation of doing those acquisitions well. What do you foresee as the greatest challenges and some of the greatest opportunities with this particular merger?
There's challenges in every deal, right? And most of the time, those are around people-based because, you know, we use the same system, but you know, we use it differently, you know? So it's making sure that the biggest challenge is making sure we don't allow our personalities or egos to get in the way of what we potentially can become together. The greatest opportunity is unleashing the power within that ag group at investors, and marrying it with a deposit structure, capital structure, and you couldn't grow ICB fast enough to satisfy what ICB did best. This allows that potential to be realized, and that's a tremendous amount of opportunity on the table, right? As well as the locations to allow greater access to the customer base that doesn't have access right now to a banking office across your footprint, given the span, you know, how wide the ICB footprint is. The opportunity for growth within the existing organizations, not even bringing new stuff on, but just within the organization and within the existing customer base, is a tremendous opportunity. And you know, being able to be lead local where we are and matter, and to have the customers understand that they matter, and we matter to them, and create win-wins, right? I mean, to have that true relationship community banking where you can rely on your lender, you know, doesn't mean, I mean, and sometimes that means the lender is going to tell you that they don't think something's a good idea. But that's what being a good lender is. It's not a manual you pull off the shelf and try to figure out, where do I fax in answers, right? I mean, Tim's going to lead the ag group, and I expect, other than names, the way the philosophies match up, them to be very, very similar. So I mean, nothing's without challenges, but I feel really good about how this one marries up, you know.
Yeah, thanks. Tim, maybe switching to your perspective on this, what makes you confident that Nicolet will make a great partner for serving investors' ag customers, given the fact that Nicolet's ag portfolio has been fairly limited since its inception? For the skeptics out there, tell us a little bit about why you have confidence that that's not going to be an issue, or that we can do that well in spite of that, Tim.
Can I go first on that?
Oh, sure. Why not?
I mean, so I mean, it's really hard. I mean, we have 4% of our portfolio right now is ag. Well, your customers aren't going to come here. You're the market leader. ICB is the market leader. And the last thing you would do if you were me would be to go try to hire a bunch of people to compete against you when you have the best lenders in the state. So, I mean, the only way for us to be able to move into that business successfully is a deal like this. And that, to your earlier question about the opportunity, was hell yeah, Tim, let's get together and talk about this. Because there's no way we were going to make any substantial inroads with you guys 35 miles south and across the state of Wisconsin with the quality ag lending staff that you guys have. That's my answer to that question. Timmy, go ahead.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, Mike has talked about along the lines of what he just said, mattering in the markets that they serve. And, you know, we've done a great job growing our ag business, which has been and was our foundation to start the organization. 3 of us, including myself, growing up on farms, we understand the business. And, you know, we think that Nicolet respects that and obviously has an interest in it, or else we wouldn't have partnered up. I also would not have committed to leading the ag division if I wasn't confident that this was going to be a good thing for our customers and our team on the ag side. So I'm excited about it. I think it gives us a lot more ability to grow with our customers moving forward. And, I think it's a great opportunity for our entire organization.
So maybe another follow-up question to that for Mike. What do you and your team like about the future in terms of banking the ag industry? There's, one of the things that we've learned at ICB as a publicly traded ag bank is that a lot of our institutional investors, the people that matter out on Wall Street, get their ag news from the Wall Street Journal.
Right.
And sometimes that isn't the most reliable place to learn about ag and what's going on. So they don't understand it the way we do, right on the ground, boots on the ground here in Wisconsin. So what makes you excited that the ag space is a place that a bank can be successful in going forward as ag continues to change like it's been over the last 20 years?
People, Dave. It's all about people, and it's about having quality people that you have confidence in working with their customer base to deliver the financial solutions. I mean, what makes you, a bank is only as good as the people in the building. You can have cool buildings, you can have all these cool products, but if you don't have people that can bring value and create relationships in that environment of shared success, it doesn't matter what industry you're trying to, it can be any industry you want to be in, but in the end, it comes down, people repay people, and relationships matter, and they should matter. And in Wall Street, relationships don't matter, right? And the really smart guys, those institutional investors, had a big problem because you had a 60% dairy concentration. We're going to have 14%, which is why, to Tim's earlier comment about scale mattering and size mattering, those really smart guys still want to talk about it, and I'll talk about it, but hey, have you read a Wisconsin license plate lately? It says America's Dairyland. Come on. So you guys that want to read the Wall Street Journal, read what you want, but I got an idea. Get your butt on a plane and come and see us, and we'll take you somewhere. And you can really see what we're talking about. These are sophisticated businesses that aren't, I don't know what the really smart guys in New York think if we're playing Green Acres or what, but we're not. But in the end, it's still a people business delivered by quality people, taking care of their customers and creating that relationship and helping them solve their financial needs that matter. So while I care about the really smart guys, there's a name for people that don't believe in what we're trying to do, and they're sellers. So, don't own us then. But otherwise understand what we're trying to accomplish and what we mean to the greater Wisconsin economy, of which a tremendous part is agricultural related, whether that be crop production, whether it be dairy, whether it be dairy related, whether it be cattle based, whatever, right? And we are a reflection of where we live, and the products and services we deliver through quality people to make that happen are the reason that we're excited about being in that business line. And it's why we're willing to make the investment and are making the investment in acquiring investors. The opportunity throughout the state of Wisconsin and the UP and northern Michigan and parts of Minnesota, where it makes sense and where we can make a difference. The really smart guys either figure it out or they don't figure it out. But who knows where we live better than us?
Yes, thank you. Maybe shifting gears a little bit, Tim, we've already talked about the fact that your role in this new organization, or in the follow-up to the merger, will be to lead the ag division of the bank. Maybe tell the audience a little bit more about why you said yes to that opportunity and why that made sense to you as the current CEO of ICB, given an opportunity to lead an ag team in a bank like Nicolet.
Well, first of all, as I said earlier, we founded the bank with, the ag market in Wisconsin and our inability to take care of clients in our former life, which is the reason why we started Investors Community Bank 25 years ago. So I've been committed to ag and understand the business and have seen it grow and change over the last 25 years tremendously. As I think most of you know that are on this call, I grew up on a dairy farm not far from Manitowoc, so I have that in my blood. I'm excited about getting back to the roots. I attended the Farm Technology Day show for a day last week, and it was really refreshing to get back in front of customers and have that time to interact with them and talk about this transaction in particular that people have questions about. And I was excited to share that story. I wouldn't have signed up for this unless I truly believed it was the right thing for our ag customers long term. In leading this division, Mike and I have talked. He has given us a lot of autonomy to do what we need to do as we move forward. It's like putting a big jigsaw puzzle together. It's going to take time to figure out exactly how this is all going to fit together, and there are going to be some changes in maybe how things are done. But I think overall, it's going to be a very smooth transition, and we're going to have the ability to take care of our clients as we do today, effectively, and deliver product when it's needed on a timely basis as well. Nicolet has additional products that we haven't offered, so we're going to be able to expand the opportunity to serve you in other ways that we haven't had the ability to in the past. So I'm excited about it.
All right, well, then I see we've got our first question that's come online here. And so I'm going to fire it right at you, Tim. As a follow-up to that, we've been talking a lot about positives in this merger, but we all know that change comes hard. It's not easy to make a change of this sort, and people worry about that both at the customer level, the employee level. So what are some of the major concerns that you're wrestling with as you lead our team here at ICB regarding the possible making this a successful merger, and that if we turn the clock back ahead 5 years and look back on this and say it's been a great run, we partnered with a great bank, it's all rainbows and lollipops for our customers. So how are we at ICB planning to overcome the concerns that any merger of this type, of this size and scale that affects people, customers, and employees alike? Give that your best run.
Well, I think first of all, the most critical thing is communicating and over communicating. We jumped on this webinar today to be able to share, and you get a chance to meet Mike Daniels from Nicolet, albeit virtually, not in person, but you get a sense for Mike's leadership style and what he likes about Investors Community Bank and why we partnered. Communication is critical. We're trying to do the best we can, both internally and externally, on that topic as things get pieced together. As I said earlier, this is a big jigsaw puzzle, and we don't have all the answers today. But as we formulate the answers as to how this will look, and change is never easy, we'll continue to communicate how that's going to look moving forward. I mean, we're intending to potentially, if we get regulatory approval, close sometime in December. I think we've announced that as part of our initial transaction announcement. But as we get closer to that date, we will be communicating more and more as to what might occur. And we've even talked about having another one of these at some point this fall with Mike and I and Dave moderating to answer some questions. So I think the critical thing is just continue to communicate and over communicate. And we've tried to do that as well as we could, both internally and externally.
I would just add, maybe not as a panelist, but as a fellow ICB employee, that change of this sort when we don't communicate well, we're not keeping people informed. And there are some things that we have to say, this isn't, you're probably not going to be thrilled with this decision that we have to make. There's decisions every day that they can't all be exactly like everybody wants them to be made. There's things, our two organizations, as similar as we are in terms of how we go about serving the markets that we're served, we're still different banks with different cultures and different people over time. So when we have to make changes to that, some people are going to say, wow, it's about time. We love that. Other people are going to say, man, that's not the bank I joined. That's not who I want to work for. And some people might decide that they're going to move on.
Yeah, I mean, if I could toss something in on that, I mean, the hardest part in these deals always, other than minimizing customer impact and having that part be seamless, but this is a unique situation because as Tim and I've talked, I get the founder mentality, right? I mean, I started from zero in a white sheet of paper in my basement 21 years ago, and Tim, Bill, Wayne, and Mark did the same thing, right? So I don't discount the emotion, and for all the people that always want to say, well, it's business, that's a big crock of BS, if you ask me. I mean, anyone who says business isn't personal doesn't understand. Everything we do every day affects somebody positive, hopefully way more positively than negatively. And how can that not be personal, right? But in changes like this, yeah, the consolidation and efficiency, the crappy part of every deal are good people are not going to have a role with the combined organization going forward. Now, I expect little to no change, or actually when Tim said, do you want to talk about the ag? I said, Tim, that's your area to run. You tell me what it looks like, right? And I think, Dave, you were in that conversation. But, I mean, when it comes to some of the other members potentially of the leadership team or in support areas where there's duplication, that's crappy. I mean, that stinks. Now, the positive side of that is the opportunity that an organization of this size potentially provides if people will, as Tim and I have both asked, trust the process, because the size and scale will provide opportunity. It may be a little different, and can people wrap their head around it and embrace it as we go through this, and as Tim said, put the puzzle together. Because everyone figures, everyone, and it's human nature when you announce something like this, you assume that guys like you, Dave, Tim, me, some of our leadership team here have it all figured out. And the only people we've met so far at the time of announcement are 2 or 3 people in each organization, and nobody knows, and you really don't know what anybody really does, because their title may be one thing, but you may find out, well, in that job, they do this, 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 and this. Well, there's an opportunity in one of those areas. So it's why we're both asking people to trust the process. And we're going to work damn hard to make sure that the customer transition goes really, really smooth, and that there's opportunity for as many people as there is. But I'm transparent to a fault. I'm not going to sugarcoat and say that there's not going to be job eliminations and position eliminations, because that'd be a damn lie. And I'm never gonna say something that I don't believe, or that someone could say, you told me not to worry. No, I'm telling you to trust the process, and opportunity will present itself should you want that opportunity. And that's hard because that's different, right? And it's hard because as much as the founder mentalities overlap with how you think about taking care of customers, mattering in your community and mattering to one another, the fact of the matter is that's going to be broken up from what it was. And I don't discount that. We don't discount that. I try to remind everybody, assume positive intent. I don't think anybody shows up and says, I'm going to be a complete ass today. right? Everybody shows up genuinely caring about what they do and for their customers, whether they're internal customers within the bank or external customers on the outside. But I mean, the reality is what the reality is. And our job is to communicate, be as transparent as we possibly can, and get it right. Are we going to do everything perfectly? I am sure not. Right? I mean, and that's okay. And apologize if we have to apologize. But I mean, move forward. And if we're doing things in the correct spirit of cooperation, communication, and transparency, it ought to go quite smoothly. But I mean, I'm never going to sit there and say we're going to do it perfect.
Thank you. Maybe in a similar vein, Tim, can you say anything about some of the questions we've gotten from our customers as our staff has been out talking about this merger is, are you still going to be my loan officer? Am I still going to get to work with the same people that I've grown to know and trust over the years? What do you say to those questions?
Yeah, Tim, what do you say to those questions?
I would say, as Mike said before, you go ahead and get it done, Tim. So we're keeping the team together. I don't think there's going to be significant change at all in those relationships. We may do some reshuffling of the deck. You never know as we look at geographies and things like that. But overall, the team's going to stay intact and have the relationship that they've had with the client, which we understand. To Mike's point before, we've used this term in the past. People bank with people, not with banks. And it is about relationships. It really is about those relationships that the people have with the clients. And we understand that, and we know that's important. Unfortunately, some other transactions that occur from time to time don't think about that. And but we're thoughtful in that process. So I don't think things are going to change dramatically with the team that's serving you on the front lines.
And we've even been so bold to tell our ag team that really based on all the direction we've received to date, the ag team will be left in place pretty much as is, but we're a dynamic changing organization and there's always changes, and even if we weren't involved in a merger. So be patient. I like the trust the process admonition, Mike. That's something that we have to continue to remind ourselves that it's not something that we can snap fingers and it's gonna all of a sudden be in place and be smooth. It's just a process that we have to all work through. So thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, I got a tremendous amount of faith in Tim and you and everybody at the organization, with our organization and your organization, in getting together, talking, having the conversations that they're going to that they need to have in order to make this happen, right?
Yep. And I would say, just as a side note, I've been in a lot of those conversations, and I know that the commitment by Nicolet leadership to the ag space and trusting the leadership that's in place here at ICB with making the right moves there is real. It's not something that you're just saying to get us through this process. I can tell from the conversations that we've been a part of that's real. Another related question is, what's planned, Mike, in terms of ICB branches, loan production offices, any closings expected? That's always a conversation in any of these, as you well know. What's your plan there?
Well, we announced the Green Bay office, right? Which, Tim and I were joking. I actually sold to ICB in 2016 or 17. Something like that, Tim. That would be the only change. I would think any other changes we saw would be positive. I think there's areas within the state where you have a tremendous market penetration that might deserve a full service office. So that would be opportunity to expand our footprint with full service locations where the geography makes sense. Now, we'll start talking about that, next year sometime, early in the year, but where that makes sense. I think, the entry into Manitowoc and Des Moines I would expect us to have tremendous opportunity on the banking side there. If you want, I know we got together primarily to talk about the ag group here and ag, but the opportunity for Nicolet to increase its footprint and Stephen's Point, very exciting. And in Manitowoc, very exciting. I would expect both those offices to see growth. They have really good people there, as we do in the as you do throughout the organization. But I think that opportunity, the new Appleton office, we're going to open that weekend of in December when we expect to close this. It'll open and it'll be a full service office that will have commercial, wealth, retail, and serve that part of the Fox Valley. So I think other than that Green Bay office, I would not expect any changes. I wouldn't. The loan production offices are important delivery points for what we will be doing. And then the analysis and the conversation will move beyond that to, do any of those loan production offices need to become offices, real branches, to better serve the market, to where it makes sense, and where you matter, can we matter more?
And to clarify, the Green Bay location, that area has Nicolet locations that could well serve those customers in that immediate area. I don't know
It's
how
a
many
mile
blocks
away.
away. Yeah, that's what I.
Less than a mile, I think. Yeah,
Right. So
That's why you sold us that location way back when, right, Mike?
that's right.
Yep. Another question for Tim. Are there any expected material changes in terms of product and service offerings? Obviously, we've already said the ag world is pretty much business as usual, but anything that some of our customers might be interested in or concerned about in terms of product and service offerings, that either things Nicolet offers that we don't, or things that we offer that are going to change that might affect a customer here or there?
So that's one of the other additional exciting things about this is, as I talked to Mike, many of our product sets, primarily our primary platform, which is with Fiserv, line up very well to not create a lot of disruption as to how you're doing your banking on a daily basis online. As we've looked at the platforms, they're very similar. It's through the same provider. We don't see that there's going to be drastic change there, which will be good. As I mentioned earlier, one of the benefits of partnering with Nicolet is the expanded retail products that they offer that we don't on the consumer side, as well as the trust and investment advisory business that we have not offered historically. So I think there's great opportunity to continue to serve our clients in different ways than we have historically. Some products may fit for some and not for others, but it really rounds out our playbook and our opportunity to serve our clients better than we have had the ability to historically. So I'm excited about it. I don't think there's going to be a lot of dramatic changes on the platform and day-to-day use of our customers on the front lines.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the opportunity for a full retail product offering, whether that be, mortgage, home equity line, our wealth management, meaning, we do 529 plans, simple IRAs, employee benefits, and for people that want to put some sort of 401k in place of some sort of simple IRA for their customers, whatever the best solution is. I think all of those provide a greater opportunity to bring a product set to your customer base, to your current customer base, that than currently exists. So we'll begin the mapping process in terms of mapping the products. Will there be little nuances? I'm sure there will be, but for the most part, I would expect the online banking, the cash management delivery, all of those things to be relatively similar, and hopefully better. Our goal is to always get better. You know, I mean, whether it be Nicolet on a standalone basis, whether it be Nicolet and investors combined, whatever, we want to be better. We want to have a better product offering for our customers, because in the end, we want to matter to our customers.
Okay, I'm looking at the clock, guys, and I've got a bunch more questions, but some of them I think can be answered quickly. So I'm going to ask you to try to take some of these and just give a quick answer so that we can make sure we make the best use of our last 15 minutes of this time together. Mike, when will the merger happen and why does it take so long? That's kind of a leading question. I know the date, so
Yeah,
tell us why.
Well, I mean, so we two things. We need all regulatory approvals, right? So we have to send apps in, and then we have to get a shareholder vote. So then we have to apply to we have to do an S4, send it to the Fed and the SEC for approval, then print a proxy statement, send it to our shareholders for the shareholder vote. And all of that takes a degree of time. So when we close a transaction, we close and convert. So if we're closing in, early December, it'll happen on a Friday. When the offices close on Friday, they'll reopen on Monday as Nicolet offices. So all that work over the next 4 or 5 months, the part we can't control, that we build a little fluff in the merger schedule, is the regulatory approvals, the SEC approval, the printing of the proxy statement, scheduling the shareholder vote. Anytime, anytime you involve, the regulatory bodies or the Fed or the SEC, you're subject to their timetable. And I would I'd certainly like it to be quicker, but I mean, when you look, we're gonna do this thing in 4.5 months, which is actually pretty quick.
Yeah, and the other thing that you mentioned that's important is we've got to get on the calendar of Fiserv for a spot on their schedule to do the conversion, which you don't just get to pick your own date there either. That's something that you're subject to their timeline. So I know you guys already reserved a spot for us. So that was sort of the first reasonable available date, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And actually the fact that we got them to do it in early December, which is the expected time, is amazing, because they don't like doing things that late in the year, of course, because, our core providers being Fiserv, I mean, that's a big company, but we're starting to matter to them more as well. Right.
Tim, if I'm a current ICB shareholder, what happens to my stock?
So as you saw in the announcement, 80% of it is going to convert to Nicolet stock. That price will be set based on the 20-day volume weighted average price prior to closing. The cash piece, which is 20% of the transaction, so 80% stock, 20% cash, has already been set. That price is $37.18, and that was set based on the 20-day volume weighted average price prior to our announcement. So there's a mechanism to both of these pricing tools that happen, both on the cash and the stock piece. The stock is yet to come, but ultimately 20% of your stock will be paid out in cash. The other 80% will convert to Nicolet shares.
Thank you. And probably the most frequent question we've gotten to date, in addition to will my loan officer change, is how will my accounts be affected? Will I have to buy new checks? Will I have to redo my online bank setup? What kind of disruption to my accounts on the deposit side do I have to deal with here, Mike?
There's hopefully little to no disruption. I mean, you don't have to buy new checks. Your checks will work just fine. Should you want to, you may, or if you're getting close to reorder, knowing that we're talking about this in early December, I mean, order less. But your current, any customer's current checks will continue to work in process after the closing date. And then as that reorder comes up, it'll naturally occur. The online banking piece, given that we're going Fiserv to Fiserv, we're hoping and expecting. Our people are in the middle of working. Both our people, your ICB people and Nicolet are working right now on mapping that over. I'm hoping it's as simple as logging in, and all the information converts over, requiring no setup, because I believe we both use the same online banking product.
Thank you. Another question for you, Tim, on people's side. What will happen to Investors Insurance Services in this merger process, Tim?
Investors Insurance Services and the agents that work in that regard, including the support staff, will stay intact. That's been an important part of our business model. Talked to Mike about that at length, and it's a core part of our service delivery to our customers and risk mitigation tools that we provide. So it's going to stay in place as is.
Very good.
We may change the name, but
yeah, that's been expected. We get that. And another question. Oh, sorry, Mike.
The people won't change. I mean, it's an important part of the ag delivery. It's another important arrow in the quiver of the delivery of products. So expect that same product set to be delivered by the same people that do it today.
Hopefully not too many of you on this call are calling your crop insurance agent this morning relative to the storms that came through last night. So
yeah.
Yep. Another people question, Tim, is what's likely to happen to the loan support and credit people that I sometimes deal with? I know that we've had, and this hasn't been in jest, we have customers that say, if something happens to my loan officer, I can survive, but don't mess with the support staff that I deal with day to day on some of the things that are important questions that I have to get answered, or important activities that I need their help on. What's likely to happen to those people?
Well, I think as Mike said earlier, he's given us the autonomy to do what we need to do, and the ag team is not going to change unless the people don't want to, continue with the organization. But I don't see much disruption there at all. I think we want to continue to serve our clients as we have effectively for 25 years in the same form or fashion, and with the same contacts. So I don't see that changing dramatically at all.
And I've got a question now that came in prior to the call today that is a little dicey, but we're going to take it. I'm going to ask you guys to take it on, and that is, I'll start with Mike. A few years ago, your co-founder Bob Atwell leveled some public criticism at the dairy industry in Northeast Wisconsin for contributing to the pollution of the Bay of Green Bay. And that was out in the public space. We know dairy farmers in Northeast Wisconsin took issue with that. And so there's a question among some people as to how that's likely to affect the commitment to ag and to the dairy industry in this part of the state. Can you share your thoughts on this issue and where you and Bob stand on it today? And Tim might have some comments as well to contribute to the conversation.
Mike, do you want me to start?
Well, Tim, if you want to, because I know you and Bob have had a conversation over the years on that.
Yep, let me lay the groundwork for this. Bob has been very transparent over the last number of years about the water quality in the Bay of Green Bay, which I think we all understand the importance of that. And he was pushing to see improvement in nutrient management processes that were occurring on farms, especially in the Door County, Kewaunee County, that impact the Bay in particular. Dave and I had a meeting with Bob a number of years ago, to talk through some of the things that our dairy farmers were doing to, not continue to impact the environment, the precautions they were taking and measures they were taking. Bob was still a strong voice in this. He has admitted when he called me a few weeks ago after we announced this deal that there's been a lot of improvements from a dairy farm perspective in the nutrient management regards and the benefits that it's creating for the environment and for the Bay of Green Bay. So I think he's come off this. Mike and I talked about this very early in our discussion. Obviously, we're a big ag bank. I don't want this to become a contentious issue at the board level. And Mike assured me that it would not. So that's the background. And I'll let Mike respond from there.
Yeah. There's no doubt when, sometimes or oftentimes a position that I may have or Bob may have or take regarding something that they believe gets reflected as Nicolet's position. Bob's positions are Bob's positions. And I think the important thing is Bob, Tim, as well as Bob's also had open dialogue with many with many of the farmers regarding this issues. Anybody who wants to have a dialogue with them related to them. And to Tim's earlier point, I agree with everything he said. That being said, if people want to grump about it, they're going to grump about it. And I mean, reasonable people ought to be able to have conversations about issues and get to a point without it becoming contentious. Although it seems like the world is that doesn't occur in the world anymore. The fact of the matter is, if it were Nicolet's and Bob's position that no way in hell do I want to be involved in something like this, we probably wouldn't have been. So obviously, the conversations that have been occurring over the last, I don't know, what was that, 5-6 years ago? I don't even know the date. Have been very productive on both parts, where they've been able to have an open dialogue or been willing to have an open dialogue and understand each other's where each party is coming from and what can or can't be done about it. That being said, everything I have communicated this morning about our commitment to where we live and the industry that supports northeastern Wisconsin and the markets across our footprint, not just northeastern Wisconsin, includes ag and dairy and ag related. And if that were a problem, we wouldn't be sitting here today. If Tim, Bill, Wayne, Mark, the investors board would sit there and say, what the hell? I mean, the opportunity for us together came from both parties understanding the power of being together and serving that market. And I mean, I am sure that if anyone wants to have a dialogue with Bob Atwell on the topic, he'd be more than willing to come visit and go see you. But, Tim and my position as CEOs of these companies we're going to get after it and we're going to take care of our customers and our community. And we understand what that means. But that being said, my Burger King comment, if we got to have dialogue about things, let's have dialogue, but let's have respectful dialogue and understand the points. But our commitment to this transaction and the customer base and the opportunity that it provides for the investor's customer base to a wider product set, to a larger opportunity, and to hopefully a higher level of service. I mean, that's the opportunity that this creates in this combination. Tim, you want to add anything?
Yeah, just to finish, I mean, as Mike pointed out, I would not have supported this transaction if I knew that Nicolet was not committed to serving our ag customers, in particular our dairy customers. And we have a lot of them up in the Kewaunee County, Brown County region that are part of that Bay, Bay of Green Bay environment. And again, as I said, this topic came up early. I wanted to make sure I got right to it with Mike and with Bob, and we had conversations, and I'm comfortable. And as Mike pointed out, they wouldn't have bought us and merged with us if they weren't confident in continuing to support the ag business, which is where we bring the most value.
Yeah, and you guys would have called us.
Yeah. Well, and maybe just to add to that, one thing that I know is a big deal is since that initial conversation back a few years ago with Bob and that came out publicly, the industry itself has done a much better job of showing the environmental interests in our part of the world and the public at large that they're great stewards of the environment. And so some of the things that were raising questions and concerns weren't based on science or fact. And so our dairy industry has done a better job of showing what's being done, of promoting great practices, of doing the things that are a lot different than my grandpa did back in the day when he, that was just the way farming was done back in those days. Today, the environmental practices and stewardship that our dairy industry has practiced are really second to none. And Peninsula Pride and other organizations around the state that have been farmer-led organizations to this effort have been very important. I think my job is to wrap us up here. So I think I would just say thanks to Mike and Tim for the transparency, for the time that you've spent today. I know these conversations will be continuing. I know that, Tim, I can speak for you in saying if individual customers have questions and concerns that a forum like this aren't a comfortable way to ask, Tim's got his schedule. He'll make his schedule work so that he can get out with your loan officer, your banker, and talk. And we may need other forums like this if this is useful. Yeah. If you have other questions that you want to funnel to us individually, we can get you email and make sure that questions that you have get answered, your concerns get answered. And I know that there's a lot of things that are coming down the road that it isn't all, in spite of the optimism that we have for this transaction, we'll have some challenges and we'll address them and deal with them. And we're committed to making sure that the negative impact on you as a customer are very minimal. So thank you much. Any last words? We don't have a hard stop, but I know some people need to move on with their day.
So, I mean, my email's on our website. I mean, my phone numbers are on our website. If anyone, I'll talk to anybody who wants to talk. They can come see me. I'll come and see them. I'm more than fine with that. I get accused of being transparent to a fault, and I mean, it's I look forward to that. Right? There's not a lot of times where, I mean, and Dave, I mean, you've been in a number of these meetings. I mean, have you had many that you ever left wondering, I wonder what Mike's thinking or means by that?
You've made sure that never happens. So thank you.
Mike is very transparent, no doubt. And the same goes for me, as Dave said. If you need to reach out outside of this forum and talk to me or want me to come visit you at the farm, your place of business, I'll be happy to do that. So please feel free to contact me. Be happy to chat.
Yeah, appreciate you taking the time, Tim, Dave. Appreciating you to dust off your hidden journalism skills. To think that your moderating ability is second to none.
Yeah, I'm never gonna be accused of being Mike Wallace, but at least
Yeah.
It's kind of fun when you've got talkative people that are willing to say what's on their mind. That's always fun. Nobody's trying to divert the question to something they'd rather answer. So thanks
Right.
for being very open and honest with your comments. And again, we are recording this, so we'll make that available. Melissa will have that out on the website somewhere, and you'll be able to get access to that. And again, keep the questions coming. And I guess the word for the day is trust the process. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good day. Have a good week.
Yep.
Tim and Dave, see you soon.
All right.
Thanks. See you.